So you want to follow a video of the pros and cons of selling plants as a side hustle, and you also want to know more of the drawbacks when it comes to plants, along with what it takes for each individual plant as an investment, and how am I growing these plants. All very good questions, and we're about to answer every single one of your questions. And if you're watching this, if you don't know who I am, I'm Johnny B Talks, and I talk about everything. So with that being said, let's get started. So the very first question, the pros and the cons of selling plants, but you want me to focus more on the cons. But before I get into the cons, let's talk about the pros first. Again, a pro of a plant right here, which as I'm going to be talking about this, I'm going to be putting this together in these little glass containers right here that have the cork and everything like that. And all that's going to be in here is just water with this plant. So I'm going to break this down, show you how to do that while I talk and answer about these questions. But in here, just going to be water, roots with the plant. But the very first thing I have to do is actually fill these up with water first. So let's go ahead and get that started. Nice. To go into depth with the question as far as what the pros are, there's a lot of pros when it comes to plants. A lot of pros with plants are the ROI, so your return on or off investment, and you can double up your money really quickly, and it depends on how you do your plant. Now, you could go ahead and buy plants and do what I'm about to do and break them apart and sell them in sections and distribute the overall cost. So one easy thing, one pro with plants, there's multiple ways you can go about it. So what I'm doing right here, instead of growing some plants, instead of growing this pothos, what you can do is straight up go to Home Depot. I don't know if it's gonna focus or not, but this plant, hanging plant, was $13. Now, the reason why I bought this is because I see there's multiple shoots coming out of the soil. And when it comes out of the soil like that, you get split them, which I'm about to do, and then put them in water. Obviously, you got to clean the roots and everything, which I'm gonna use this bowl for. And I'll show you the process of doing this type of plant, because these are pretty popular. I'm gonna tell you right now, side note, at Home Depot, they're starting to sell plants like this in round globes that are glass and a little bit more fancier glasses than this. And they're selling them for 20 bucks. It's just a plant in water, selling them for 20 bucks. So why buy the plant for 20 bucks when you can make it yourself for less than maybe $10? So with that being said, some pros when it comes to plants is you can make it time efficient and low cost for startups, because out of this one plant that cost me only $13, I have 9 of these glasses and I'll be able to fill up 9 of them. So that is one pro. It can be low cost startup, and you don't have to spend the time to grow the plants. Now the one con is, say if you want to take the time and grow the plants yourselves, the biggest con of that is, again, the time. How long it's going to take for that plant to grow from a seedling all the way to the size you want it to end up selling it. Now when it comes to plants, right? So right now I'm breaking this off. You see all the roots on the bottom, and there's little sections right here, like this one right here. I follow it and find the roots where it leads, and I just kind of slowly start pulling some of the soil off, and I'll have a plant pretty soon. But some cons, again, like I said, is the timing it takes to grow the plants. So what I do sometimes is this: if I don't have the time to grow the plants, and as you can see, look at those roots, look how nice and long, beautiful. So I do this where I go to Home Depot or a garden center and I actually buy plants, like mostly hanging plants, because it's easier to separate, like how I'm doing. And what I do is I look at how many parts I could get out of this. So this is just one out of all this, and you can't even tell I pulled it out. So each little section right here is going to be profit. That's going to go into these glass jars with the water. Now what I'm going to do is take these roots, and I'm going to go in here, kind of whoosh it around in this bowl, kind of clear off some of that extra dirt, so that way it's not going to get in that water. And when it comes to some more cons, you might have plants that I'll put up on the screen that you can look at where sometimes they don't do too well because you end up getting busy, things get in the way, life gets in the way, and you end up forgetting to water them, taking care of them, and you'll have plants looking like this on the screen. Nice and dead and rotten looking, all yellow, that you cannot revive. And that's okay. Sometimes that's going to happen. It's going to happen more than once. And yes, you'll lose some money on that. But if you profit your ROI correctly, kind of like how I mentioned in my other video, you will be able to be okay to lose a couple plants with with some plants dying. So that's okay. And then what I'm going to do right now, these roots, I'm going to slowly start guiding them in. It's okay if there's still a little bit of dirt on them. That's okay. You can't get it all off. That's fine. And then you just slowly start guiding it into the container, just like this. And then sometimes you get these little tiny stragglers that don't want to go in, which is okay. And again, like I said, you'll notice some dirt in there. That's all right. Yeah, all good. And then that goes down and pushes like that. So plant number one, done. And like I said before, the biggest con is going to be losing some plants because you forget to water them. You'll have some plants that will be stubborn depending on the type, whether it's a cacti, succulent, pothos, or whatever the case may be, whatever plant you decide to use. Sometimes they can be stubborn, sometimes they won't want to grow the way you want to grow them, and sometimes they just die because they're plants. They live and breathe, sometimes they don't make it. Now, side note, this right here, with these roots and everything, this vase right here, if I'm not mistaken, costs $2.50, $3, $4 at most. And then, like I said, the plant itself costs $13. What I would do with this plant right here, when I sell it, I would sell it for $12. Again, I gotta figure out how many plants I could get out of this first before I can actually figure out my profit margin on this. But figure in this whole container right here is maybe about $4 at most, for maybe $5 at most. And what I would do, like how I mentioned in the last video, again, if you haven't seen that video, go watch it. It's up there in the corner. But I like to double my ROI or my profit margin. So if this is $5, what I would do is either sell it for $10 or $12. Now I have two different sizes. What I could do is sell this one for $10 and the little bit larger one for $12. And I like to do deals. So if this is $12, what I will do is 12 each or 2 for $20, because customers eat that stuff up. So moving on to your other questions, what are some of the drawbacks? Now, there can be a lot of drawbacks when it comes to selling plants. Now, this is a big one. This is a big one. Oh, they're separate. So if they're separate like this, sometimes what I'll do is I'll put them together, but sometimes they can be stubborn and not wanting to come out. Now, these roots aren't the greatest. So sometimes you'll have something like that where you don't have that much roots, but that is okay. Or you'll have something kind of like this. Again, these all need clean, which is perfectly fine. But you'll have a lot of drawbacks. Those drawbacks when it comes to selling plants, the main one is going to be figuring out where you're going to sell them. Now, there's a lot of people when I sell at craft shows, they say, I can't have a plant, I have a black thumb, I'm always going to kill it, I'm going to kill it, I'm going to kill that plant. If it's by me, it's not going to survive. That's the biggest thing, having those type of people bringing that negativity to these beautiful plants. And what you do to counteract that is you get plants like pothos, you get plants like snake plants or bamboo or succulents and cacti that are very hard to kill and they're very low maintenance to take care of. Now, if you don't know what type of plants to use because you don't know what's easy to take care of, what's low maintenance, well, there's an app I've been using since I got started in plants. It's called Picture This. And Picture This, again, this is not no sponsor, nothing like this, because I'm a small channel. If you want me to become a bigger channel, you got to hit that subscribe button. But I use this to help me identify the type of plants. So with this one right here, what I decided to do is use Picture This, and I scanned it. And once I scan it, it tells me the type of plant. So this type of plant right here is a golden pothos. And golden pothos, if you go ahead and scroll down, it'll tell you it's easy maintenance. It'll say easy on there. It'll tell you how healthy is this plant. So when I scanned it, this plant said it was okay. Could use some improvements, which is fine, which I noticed. And that is why I picked it up, because I like helping the plants that don't do well in these type of stores. And if you continue scrolling down, it'll tell you where it's from, what location can you find these at, what temperature is the hardiness. So like with the snow and everything like that, how long can it survive outside? And the best thing is too, when I mention, oh, this plant says it's okay, and say if it has a leaf like this where it's all yellow, it will tell you how to take care of it and all the different steps to get it from yellow back to this nice luscious green. I can't talk today, I'm sorry. But this app I live and breathe off of when I do craft shows, because the amount of times I get asked, what type of plant is this? How do I take care of it? And I tell them about this plant. Yes, there's a paid part of it, but it is totally free to use. And you could create a little house portfolio, a little collection of all your house plants in this app, so you could keep track of it, how to take care of all your house plants, and it is beautiful. So I highly recommend using that app. Again, it's called Picture This. I am going to go ahead, and since I got my plants out of the soil I'm leaving right here just because I'm going to use it for my next plants when I'm going to put together some cacti in some containers. But real quick, I'm going to do this real fast. I'm going to go ahead and clean these roots in this bowl of water. Mort. Pooba. Get. Bad. Really? So that is what they look like. in the glass jar. I'll probably dump out this water and then put in new one to get clean water, make it look pretty. I have 8 total. This would have been 9, but it's only one single stem. Probably won't go for what I'll sell it. But if I count the 8, that's $1.65 for each individual part of the plant that I broke in off of the Home Depot plant that originally costed $13. Did I just say costed? Cost $13. Now, the glass jars, like I said, you can get them on Amazon, Temu, buy them in bulk. On average, I'm pretty sure they could go as low as maybe $1 all the way up to maybe $3. I'm going to go on the high end just to be on the safe side. So $3 plus $1.65. I put in $4.65 into one of these. And like I said, at craft shows, I would be selling this either for $10 or for $12. And again, it's a double up. Money goes back into investing into more plants. And on top of that, I pocket some of the money, which is nice. Now, to kind of recap, some pros. It is super easy to put together plants like this when you split them. When I mean split is exactly what I just did in this presentation, video, whatever you want to call it, where you take a whole plant and you start finding the roots where they go and you slowly separate them. Split, separate, same thing. And you could get multiple plants. So like out of that, just that one pot, I got 8 total, well, 8.5, I guess. 8.5 type of plants for $13. Broken down is $1.65. Can't get any easier than that. Another pro is you have versatility as to how you want to go about plants. You can do what I just did. If you don't have the time, go to Home Depot, go to a garden show or garden nursery, whatever you have in your area, and buy plants that are nice and full so you can do this and separate them if you don't have the time to grow them. Now, if you do have the time to grow them, the one con is make sure you're on top of it, because if not, you're going to have plants looking like this where they're all yellow and mushy or just plain old dead, and you lose money on buying it. Because I have that happen to me numerous times where I go ahead and buy plants. I get sidetracked with working my 9-to-5 job or hanging out with my friends or doing whatever the case may be, and next thing you know, I come into my office and I'm like, why is this plant dead? Why is it not alive? Because I forgot to water it, because I forgot to take care of it. So that is one con if you are trying to grow your own plants. You got to be on top of it, make sure you have the right light, the right nutrients, the right type of water, because certain plants like certain types of water. These, they don't care what type of water. It's super easy. You can use tap water, distilled water, purified water, don't matter. Bamboo, on the other hand, it has to be distilled or purified water. If you use tap, the leaves will get green like this and they can potentially die. Now, with all that being said and wrapped up as far as how to take care of plants, you have to make sure your light is correct. I use natural light coming in from the windows. I used to use grow lights until they crapped out on me, but now I just use natural light that comes right into this window right here. I also have little tins or plastic trays, if you will, and here's a picture of them, what they look like. But what I do with those, again, I have a little 3x3 foot stand and I just lay them across on each section and grow it that way. And the water trays on the bottom, they sit there, soak up the water from the bottom, because as one thing I learned best about plants, they love absorbing water from the bottom to the top, because if you top water, sometimes it doesn't get fully to the roots, and also you could overwater and drown the plant. Yes, you could drown a plant because they need air and oxygen to breathe, hence the roots, but I submerged plants in water. How does that make sense? Right? Don't make sense. Anyways, so another con is if you're doing craft shows or marketplaces and you have to pay to be there and you don't have no one showing up. So again, it's, a double-edged sword. Yeah, you go to have people come to your booth and your setup to buy the plants that you spend a decent amount of time putting together, but what if no one shows up? Guess what? You're out of the money of the table and you just wasted a whole Saturday, Sunday afternoon. That is also a con, but it is something that you have to factor in, because there will be times where that happens. There will be times if you post stuff on Facebook Marketplace, you're not going to get any clicks. You're not going to get any messages. If you get messages, they might just say, is this available? And then guess what? It's a ghost. And you don't hear back from them. And you got all excited because you thought you were going to get your first sale. Just got to watch out for that type of stuff. I learned all this the hard way through the Facebook Marketplace, through craft shows, and through doing little local markets and stuff like that. You have to be careful and watch what you pick as where you want to sell the plants. So that can be kind of tedious. That's why it's a con and also a drawback. So to wrap up this video, to answer the final question, it is going to be how much time is worth investing in each plant. Again, it all comes down to you, what type of plant you want to hold on to, sell, or you think you have the ability to grow. It all just comes down to you. For me personally, I deal with house plants, cacti, succulents, bamboo, air plants. I have a bunch of different types of plants, different types of breeds of those plants. Now it just comes down to the season for me to be more organized. So like these I am doing for the springtime just because they make nice little gifts for Easter, March, whatever you want to call it. And when it comes towards summertime, I change these house plants. Instead of putting them in these little glass jars like this, I put them in moss so that way they can be hung outside and look like a floating plant. Now, I do different things like that. I do air plants and put them on different cups and containers or on sticks, whatever the case may be. I do different things. It all comes down to what you want to do and what makes it easier for you to manage these types of plants. If you want to go ahead and outsource these plants, just like how I did showing you right now, to make it super easy and simple, you go to your Home Depot, like I mentioned, your nurseries, and you just buy plants that look nice and full, and you separate them, you split them, and then you get multitudes of plants. Or if you want to take the time, you could learn how to grow them and create a little indoor house garden. You get one of those indoor tents. I'm ranting right now, I am sorry, but there's different ways you can go about doing plants. Now, if you don't want to do house plants like this with the succulents and cacti, if that's what you're aiming towards, guess what? Go on Amazon. They sell that stuff in bulk. You could buy a 20 pack, 30 pack, 100 pack of succulents and cacti and air plants. You know how much it costs per one? $1.50 to $2 for one of those. You get 100 of them. Yeah, you're going to drop $100 to $200, but guess what? You're going to have a bunch of plants to work with, and then different containers you could work with putting those in those containers. Again, the thing with plants and this side hustle, it is vastly open to however you want to do it, however you want to make it easy for you to do. Capiche? Hopefully that answers your question. Again, if you don't have any questions, cool. But if you do, leave them down in the comments down below because I will be answering them.